just will continue from where we left.
Sure.
So maybe you have some.
If I have some questions, I will ask her.
And you can send her the link so that she can see
The past videos.
Then you will be in sync because we've already gone quite a bit ahead.
Okay.
Yes. And sir, we have Garima, Deepti, Shailesh and Sudhakar online.
So good morning, friends, and we'll start with meditation. Today we have taken this Triratan Vandana, so I think we'll do that starting in it, and then followed by that we'll do the meditation. Tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. We'll do this chanting. Itipiso bhagava araham samma sambuddho. I think we know the translation of it because we have been listening to it long, so I'll not read the translation then. Vidya charana sampanno, we can join it. Vidya charana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisadhamma sarathi satta deva manussanam buddho bhagavati swakhato bhagavata dhammo sanditthiko akaliko ehipassiko opaneko pacchattam veditambo vinyohiti supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho ujupatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho nyaya patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho samiti patipanno bhagavato savaka sangho yadidam chattari purisa yugani atta purisa puggala esu bhagavato savaka sangho ahuneya pahuneya dakhineya anjali karaniya anuttaram punyakritam lokasati. नास्ति मे शरणं अन्यं बुद्धो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सत्यवादेन भवतु मे जयमङ्गलम् नास्ति मे शरणं अन्यं धम्मो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सत्यवादेन भवतु ते जयमङ्गलम् नास्ति मे शरणं अन्यं सङ्घो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सत्यवादेन भवतु सर्वमङ्गलम्. So we'll now study this Sutta Nipata 4.7 Tissa Mettiya Suttam. I have written down the story behind it from the commentary. It says that Tissa and Mettiya were two associates who happened to have heard the teachings of Dhamma by the Buddha while they later were residing at Jetavana in Savatthi. Realizing that they could not be able to put teaching to practice, both of them asked for ordination and they became monks. And their teachers gave them the appropriate kammatthana, and then they began to go to practice in the forest. Now, out of them, Mettiya went, but Tissa was little tarrying, and so he left behind, saying that he would long to listen to more teachings of Buddha. But as it happened, when he went to his village to get the alms, the female folks there, they seduced him and eventually he disrobed. So Mettiya, on the other hand, attained arahantship. And when the vasa was over, he arrived at Savatthi to pay homage to the Buddha. And in due course, the Buddha was accompanied by Mettiya, reached the place where the former monk Tissa was there. And then the monk Mettiya requested Buddha to say a few words about how one gets carried over by the sexual fantasies, and that's how this discourse came up. So it's a discourse addressed to people who disrobe after becoming a monk, basically. So we'll start reading out. Methuna Manu Uttassa Methuna Manu Uttassa Vighatang Bruhi Marisa Sutvanatam Sasanam Viveke Sikhi Samasi. So the Marisa is the adjective used for the Lord also. It says, tell me when Vigatam Bruhi. So Bruhi Marisa means please speak, tell to me, O Lord. When this is said by the Metteyya. The one who is given to sex, what are the difficulties faced by him? Please tell us, so that Viveke Sikhi Samase, so that we can, hearing the instructions, we will then be motivated to work in seclusion. So he's trying to get advice from Buddha so that his friend Tissa can be motivated to become a monk again. Mithunamanyutasya Mussate vapi sasanam michcha cha patipajyati etam tasmi anaryam. Says the person who is given to sex, all his precepts are lost. A monk who is given to that is lost, and he, in fact, michcha cha patipajyati, walks on the wrong path. Etam tasmi anaryam. This is what is ignoble in him. So you can read now. Third.
Eko Pubbe Charitvana Mehunam Yo Nisveti Yanam Mantam Vatam Loke Na Mahu Puttu Janam.
Eko Pumbe Charitvana means one who has been previously dwelling alone, wandering alone. Methuyanam yo nisevati, who then gives himself to sex. Yanam bhantam vatam loke, hinam ahu puthujanam. The common folk, puthujanam means the common folk, they call him a lowly person. Like yanam bhantam vatam loke, just like a carriage which is swerving and lurching on the path. Fourth आप पढ़ दो.
यस्सु कित्ति छाया पुब्बे अयेति वापि तस्सा सा इतमपि दिस्वा सिक्खिथा मेथुनं
विप्पहातवे. यशो कीर्ति चया पुब्बे. यश और कीर्ति जो उसकी पुरानी होती है. So whatever honor and renown he has, आयते वापि तस्सा, that is हाय हो जाती, that is lost. एतम पि दिस्वा सिक्खेता, so having seen this, मेथुनम विप्पहातवे, let him give up the sex. So a person who has been a monk and gets caught in that, he should see that as a result of it, his respect is gone and therefore he should give it up. Read the next.
Sankappe hi pareto so kapano via jayati sutva parisam lighusam vanku hoti tatha vido.
संकप्पे ही तो उसके संकल्प परे तो सो is over kappano via jayati, he is overcome by his thoughts. And kappano means a poor person or like a miserable fellow. He lives, he broods on them. Jayati actually means dhyan karta hai. Here it means he broods on them. Sutva paresam nighosam, and having heard the दूसरों की परेशान और दूसरों की निघोसम, having heard the reproach of others, manku hoti tatha vida, he becomes very distressed and downcast. अथ सत्थानि कुरुते परवादेहि चोदितो एष ख्वास महागेधो मोसवज्जम पगाहति. So अथ सत्थानि शस्त्र कहते हैं, but here it means the wrong actions. Karute paravadehi chodito, he is tormented by the words of others, and others reprove him, and because he commits evil deeds. Esa khasa mahageto, he becomes deeply attached. Mosavajjam pagahati, and sinks into falsehood.
Panditoti samanyatu एकाचर्यम् अडिथितो अथपि मिथुन युद्धो मंदो वा परिकिसलति.
Panditoti Samanyata. When he had entered upon the Samana path, he was called as Pandit. He was thought as a wise person. Ekacharyam Adithito. When he had decided that he will dwell alone, he was then called as a wise person by people. Athapi Methuno Yuto, and when he has taken up the householder's life and given to sex, Mando va Parikillasadi. He is being considered as a fool by the same people.
आगे जारी है. अच्छा
827.
इतमदा
Adinavam.
पितामादीनवं नत्वा मुनि उभे परि इधा इकाचर्यं दलहं कायिरा आनिसवेता मेथुनम.
Etam Adinavam Nyatva. This Adinavam or danger, Nyatva known, having known this danger, Muni Pubba Paredha. From the Pubba means earlier to the end, that is from the beginning to the end, having known this danger, Ekacharyam Dalham Kaira. Let one dwell, let a sage dwells in a solitary life, then he say Vetham and not give up himself to sex and become a householder.
Viveka Nave Sikhita Etad Aryanam Uttamam Na Tena Sethu Manitha Save Nibbana Santike.
Vivek means seclusion. Vivekanyava Sikheta. Let him learn the seclusion. Etad Aryam Uttamam. Because this is the highest for the noble persons. Natena Setho Mannetha. Then they are not. He is not considered himself Setho Mannetha. Just because he is living in solitary life, he should not consider himself the Shrestha, that he is the best. Save Nibbana Sant, even though he is very near the Nibbana. So he's pointing out that don't make a big issue out of seclusion also and take it as a personal achievement. Rittassa Munino Charato Kamesu Anapekhino Ogatinnasya Pihayanti Kamesu Gadita Paja. Rittassa Munino Charato. Rittassa means rikt, void of desires here. So a Muni who dwells void of any desire, Kameshu Anapekhino, who is not coveting the sensual pleasures, Ogatinnas Pihayanti. Oga means the flood, so he has crossed the stream of desires, Kamesu Gadita Paja. The people, Praja means Praja, jo कामनाओं में गदिता, who is the people who are lived in, who was kind of enveloped by the sensual desires, they pihayanti, they kind of envy him. So a person who is free from desires and does not cover the sensual pleasures and who has crossed the stream, the common people who are entrenched in desires, they envy him. So this was the short discourse which the Lord gave, and as the story says, on hearing it, the Tissa was motivated again to become a monk. He attained Sotapatti and became a monk, and eventually attained Arhantship. So this was a discourse actually for people who have disrobe after becoming a monk. And then most of them disrobe because of this very reason, that they get attracted by some person and revert to the householder's life. So this is a specifically addressed to that situation. Any comments or queries? We can take them.
No questions. Silesh Sudhakar is typing something, so we can read. If today's sannyasi hear the same words, would they become Sotapanna?
If they hear it from Buddha, very likely.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same. That how come in almost all the suttas that I read, when Buddha says some words, then it ends that the person attained
See,
Sotapanna.
the field in which they are listening has a very important influence. We often neglect it, isn't it?
Right.
When we meditate in a proper place in the center, we get a different level of insight than when we do it
But a
otherwise.
person must also have attained some mental perfection to be able to reach
Yeah.
that Sotapanna.
Yeah,
It cannot
definitely.
be only because of the field, right?
Definitely. The past paramis must be there.
So then also it is possible to get slipped into this sensual desires.
Yeah,
and
see, even after having become monks, only even in modern time we see that happening, and there's no wonder that it is happening now because it was happening even then. Even at the time of Buddha, it must have been happening. So, no wonder it is happening even today.
लेकिन उस समय तो कम होते होंगे ना ऐसे
हाँ.
वातावरण ही वैसा था कि सब श्रोतावन में ही जा रहे हैं सारा
Yeah, once you become a,
इतना था
once you enter the stream,
हाँ,
but even householders can become Sotapanna. So, it's not necessary that one should be a monk to become a
to
Sotapanna.
become a Sotapanna.
But the impact of Buddha's presence is undeniable.
Much higher.
उस समय
Undeniable.
हाउस थे वहाँ पर बुद्धा की उसमें जब जैसे इनको मिल गए एकदम श्रोतापन में चले गए कि कुछ हाउस होल्डर्स भी थे
Yeah,
जो
of course.
उनके संपर्क में आते ही एकदम
Yeah. Anath Pindaka, we know stories about so many things. Even Vishakha was a Sotapanna at a young age, 7 or 8, and then she married. She had children. So it's not that it is debarred, but it is meant for people those once you have become a monk, then to disrobe is a very
Yeah.
unfortunate event. Really.
Yeah.
But this is happening, must have happened then. That's how this discourse arose.
So Sudhakar has a question, sir. Does a Sotapanna know that he is one that realizes it? No.
Only the Arhant knows. That is the big if. That only the Arhant can know that he has become an Arhant. So before that, one can have from wisdom experience, one can say that he has become less attached. That's why Ajancha and others say the fruition is absence of grasping. So the key test which we can apply is to what extent we are able to grasp onto the world. You remember that crisp statement. Sabbe dhamma nalam abhinivesas. This is the essence of my teaching. That nothing whatsoever should be grasped as me or mine or myself. So the extent to which we are able to give up this grasping, to that extent we are free. And this is our own personal experience. But
trying to find
out is not.
Is again trying to be grasping.
Yes. So when it happens naturally, and the suttas mention only for arhants, that they realize that this is the last life and all the asvas have been.
So it may happen that while after the Buddha had given the discourse, Buddha comes to know about that person.
Buddha would definitely know. For example, in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, we hear Buddha mentioning that Kondanya has got the insight. He mentioned it. But he had become only Sotapanna, not an Arhant. So Kondanya didn't know. It's only after the Anatta Lakhana Sutta that they all became Arhants. And then they knew.
In fact, Buddha would go and give the suttas because he knew that people are ready to attain that state.
That's right.
श्रोतापन की जो स्थिति है वो बहुत देर जल्दी आ सकती है मुझे लगता है ज़्यादा समय नहीं लगता उसको.
It depends how we are practicing, हमारी कितनी पारमी है, कितने हमारे संकल्प दृढ़ हैं.
ज्यादा दूर नहीं है सोतापन बनना.
Of course, अरहंत तो बहुत दूर है.
अरहंत
No doubt
बात
about
नहीं
it.
करती हूँ, लेकिन
But
ये कहते हैं सोतापन.
even Sotapanna is quite a, I mean, if one can, as Buddha says, if you can enter this stream, your suffering is reduced to absolutely minimal. He gives that example that he puts up some dust from the earth on his fingernails, and he says, how much dust you see on my fingernails? So it's very little. How does it compare with the dust of the whole earth? It's insignificant. He says, similarly, one who has entered the stream, his suffering is like the dust on my nails, and that of others is like the whole earth. So there's a huge difference in that.
And Sir Sudhakar had the additional question, which doubt gets uprooted in him, possibly at the Sotapanna stage?
Sakkaya Ditthi is the key thing. Three fetters get removed. First is Sakkaya Ditthi, that is the attachment to body-mind complex as me, as I. Not that the I notion completely ends. The notion that I am still remains, but I am not the body, I am not the mind, that becomes absolutely clear. That is the key thing.
Yeah.
Then others which follow directly are the absence of attachment to rites and rituals and any doubt about the path.
Okay.
These are the first three fetters. Then the other fetters, because these are the fetters which we have created. Others are carried along the stream of consciousness for a long time, craving, aversion, and conceit, and agitation. They're deeper mental factors which take time to get out. So, चला दूं?
मैं चला दूं.
हाँ,
ये काफी आगे गए.
बस ठीक है, वो थोड़ी देर में पहुंच जाएगी. It will reach there. This is story.
And sir, there are follow-up questions here. Grasping is there until ego exists in it. That is, fetter of Sakkaya Ditthi is there until Sotapanna.
Yeah, that is true. But mana remains. That's a very subtle thing. The feeling that I am still remains. And that ends only at the Arhat stage.
सोतापन में रहता है I am.
But ये clear होता है कि ये शरीर में नहीं है. ठीक है. If the body is dying, decaying, it's fine, okay, not a big deal.
So, Silesh is further asking, isn't I am Sakkaya Ditthi?
I am the body and the mind, that is Sakkaya Ditthi. Attachment to five khandas is Sakkaya Ditthi. Teaching five khandas is me, myself, is Sakkaya Ditthi.
Because we had read one sutta where I think two monks were talking, and then one monk said that now I know that this body is not me, I'm not this mind, but there is a sense of I.
Yeah. That's a
me.
very beautiful sutta. Yeah. I don't remember the name. One monk is abiding, and the word spreads that he is a enlightened monk. So other monks, much elder to him, they send their emissary to him and ask questions again and again. Then he finally goes there and tells them that I'm not saying that I'm an arhat, but since I still have a scent, like the scent of a flower which remains even after the flower is gone. That is the simile he uses. And in the process of explanation of that, he becomes an arhat. That discourse says that while explaining that to his fellow monks, he becomes an
And so Sudhakar has the next question, that with the understanding that the body mind is not me, would he have trouble in dealing with the world, etc., in day to day life or dealing with people?
When we see the lives of great disciples which we know of, apparently not. Of course, he will not compete to become CEO.
Yeah.
That is where probably Sudhakar must be worried. But if he becomes CEO, he won't be worried about that also. So there is a story of Anath Pindaka. He was such a rich person, and a time came that he became totally pauper.
What is it?
Anath Pindaka, such a rich person, a time came when he became a pauper. He didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And then still he retained his equanimity, and he would go to his own so-called his own monastery, and since he didn't have anything to offer, he would take some earth from his house and offer it to the trees there.
Yeah.
And in due course, again the wealth came. So which karma will take what shape, we never know. But equanimity will be comparatively better. There's one discourse of Buddha, in which Anath Pindika comes and Buddha tells him, "You look very distressed today." And I think Buddha goes to his house for food, and seeing Anath Pindika, he says, "You look very distressed today." He says, "Yes, sir, Bhante, why not? When my son is not at all following the teachings of Buddha, and I'm really..."
Okay.
उन्होंने क्या जवाब दिया?
And then he says, "Okay, you call him."
This can be the reason for distress, not the money or financial thing.
So then he tells him, calls his son, and then that discourse goes on, how he advises him, and how then the story is how he advises his son repeatedly, and apparently even the discourse of Buddha is not able to convince his son. And then he keeps on sending him to monastery again and again and again. Eventually, the thing sinks in. Even in Vishakha's case, it sounds very strange. There is a discourse in which she goes and cries and wails that my son has died, young son. She had, I think, 10 children or probably more. And so Buddha looks at her and says, "Yeah." Then she says, the passing away of a person is, as usual, it's something which is bound to happen. But the suffering is not being caused by because somebody has died, because you are attached to this person, this body and mind as yours. That's how you're suffering. So, and would you like to have another 1,000 sons from all the family? Because they are all, if you are attached to whole of the world, then you will be more suffer. So something to that effect he says. The point I was making is that even though she was a Sutapanna, she could still feel the distress at the death of her son. So those differences, kind of finer nuances, help us to be more compassionate to ourselves. Otherwise we tend to whip ourselves into why we are upset after 10, 40 years of meditation.
So Sudhakar had this question, he brought it again, that you might have seen Om Prakash ji.
Yeah, of
And
course.
what did you notice? Possibly
I
the
had
reference is that
privilege of long interaction with him. It's very peaceful presence, and very peaceful person.
did you get any sense while talking to him that he had achieved Sotapanna?
I mean, one could feel that in his presence you feel happy.
Okay.
That was sure. Then I was very open with him. He was like a son. I used to ask him all kind of things, and he used to share all his experiences. And he mentioned to me that even before Vipassana, he was like that. He says, I never got worried about anything. He even got imprisoned, and he says, it's fine. For 30 days he was in prison because they thought that he was in the forest. He had gone to forest when Japanese invasion took place to protect his family. And they thought he was trying to contact them, and even though he was a very famous doctor of Burma. And I in fact even asked him that Atu showed up, and he said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I had an experience of, I have had experience that I sit and meditate and I just lose track of the time. So I thought I must be getting into jhanas. But apparently, Sayaji said that I've tasted Nibbana, I don't know.
What is Sayaji?
Sayaji Wakin, because he had meditated, he had gone to do the meditation after a long time.
Okay.
So he said, Sayaji Wakin said that I have had experience in Nibbana, so must be right.
Okay.
I think Sayaji didn't say it to him directly, probably. But in the city, the word went around
Okay.
that Dr. Sahib has become a Sotapan. Definitely he had a very peaceful presence.
And you had a similar experience while you met Ajahn for the first time.
Yeah, that was a deeper experience.
That was much deeper experience.
Yeah. I was, stunned. Because peace is something which you experience even otherwise, The experience of peace, all of us have, even under normal circumstances as meditators, when you meditate for a long time, or when you are really moved by Shraddha, or any of the compassion or metta, they all give you a sense of joy and peace. But a sense of emptiness, there is nothing, that even mind is completely blanked out. And when you have just come out talking to a person, is a totally, absolutely, unimaginable experience. I couldn't figure out what happened.
लेकिन इससे जो शांति मिलती है वो सामान्य शांति की तरह
Yeah, it's different
वो
kind of
एकदम
feeling, yeah.
डिफरेंट होती है और मतलब शुरू में
Very
क्षणिक
different.
होती है एकदम नॉर्मल उसमें आ जाती
When you practice meditation and you enter prashadhi,
है यस
then you have a quietude of a different kind, definitely. But the experience of complete emptiness is a totally different thing. I was taken aback. I couldn't figure out kya hua. I even told Arpan, I can't think what has happened. I wanted to say something to him about our interaction with Ajahn Sumedho. I just couldn't say anything. I said, okay, let me sit for some time.
And sir, Silesh is further asking this question. Maybe you have already clarified, but what is the sense of emptiness when you met Ajahn Sumedho?
See, when we met him, we had gone to request him to come to India. And he said yes, and he was just talking. He was, as usual, sharing his experiences, jokes, asking me what do I do. I said we're practicing and we're parmis, and hopefully we believe that it will take many lives. And he laughed, and don't believe that.
Yeah.
So it was a normal chat going on, and of course he would point out certain things about tradition, about personal tradition, certain things about the openness of the Thai tradition and all that. And then at the end he said, he said, yes, I am very happy. I will be willing to come to India. All that was going on. So we were just more interested in requesting him to come over to Delhi and doing it. So when I went out, I thought, went out of his kuti and went out. I just felt that I thought I should say something to Arpan, and I just couldn't. Mind would just refuse to think. It was as if the whole thing, brain had been cleaned off. There's nothing inside. So because it was totally unusual. I had never had that kind of an experience in my meditation. And I didn't, normally when you practice meditation, you expect you'll be peaceful or happy or joyous or moved by compassion or whatever. There I didn't have any expectation. Only expectation was he agreed to come to
Yeah.
and that was not confirmed or anything. He didn't say yes or no.
Mm.
He left it to his assistant to tell us.
Mm.
So I was really amazed that such a thing should happen. Then I sat down near that office, where the tea and all things were there. I sat on a bench and said, okay, I thought that maybe, I realized that something of the kind must have happened because of his presence, and I sat down quietly. And then Ajahn Ashoka came, and I didn't even get up. I didn't realize that I should get up. And then I told him, I'm sorry. And I saw Arpan getting up and sitting down, and I told him, I am not able to think at all. I don't feel like thinking at all. So he just smiled and said, yeah, this happens with people sometimes with some people when they meet Ajahn Sumedho for the first time. And just made one comment. Even though he's talking, he's always abiding in emptiness.
Mm.
So infection can get into you.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Was this a one-off experience for you, or now also when you meditate, then you can
No, it
connect
was
to
just
that
a one-time experience.
One time.
No, I mean, I have been benefited by that. So that was a very amazing thing. So that he said it happens to many people.
Mm.
So it's okay. And then I sat down. He said, no, it's all right. You can keep sitting for some more time. And then he mentioned that his limitations of his health, which we saw later.
Yeah.
He had gone with the idea that since he is going to Europe and America, I think he's going to America also. He could stop over in Delhi and then change the flight from Delhi.
So his dates for America are year end, this November something.
Ajahn Ashoka has sent me some dates, I think.
Okay.
He sent all his programs fixed. He said some time in May in Amravati, and I think sometime in July or August he'll be in US.
Okay.
They invited him for his birthday, 83rd birthday.
Okay. So Silesh is saying that is abiding in emptiness same as no ego state?
Yeah, it is only said of Arhan that he abides in emptiness, nobody else. In the literature, description of Arhant is that he abides in emptiness. You remember when we studied the Abhidhamma, we had said there are those functional chittas with which the Arhant abides. They are wholesome, functional chittas. Don't produce any kamma. So that's what is meant by abiding in emptiness. That there is no sense of doership, or enjoyership, or anything of that kind. Things are just happening through him. This straight sentence we find in many
suttas.
And commentaries also. Yeah.
And Sudhakar is in a lighter note saying that there goes my chance to proclaim that we are all Sotapanna and don't know about it.
No, why? The chance is still there. Sudhakar, you can go ahead. You can try to meet Ajahn Sumedho when he comes to US. I'll let you know the date. I think the date must be somewhere on the Forest Sangha website. His schedule must be somewhere.
Okay.
So I got that mail from Ajahn Ashoka. I'll forward it to.
So Silesh, is he going to California?
I think so. I'll just tell him. They are in California? I'll just check up my mail and let you know the date. He says easiest part of LPS program that people can join anytime is in May at Amravati Monastery in England. He'll be there the whole month of May. Details of scheduling for trip are almost still mostly up in the air as far as public talks and everything. But on Sunday, July 23, 2107, he will be in Abhayagiri Monastery in Redwood Valley in California. I think they are also in California. No?
Yeah, so not very far. I think few hours of drive from where Salesian Sudhakar are living.
You can note it. Abhayagiri Monastery in Redwood Valley in California. On Sunday, 23rd July, he will be there celebrating his 83rd birthday together with the Abbot Ajahn Pasanno's 67th birthday.
With Ajahn?
Pasanno, who is the abbot of Abhayagiri Monastery. His 67th birthday also seems to be on the same day. So you can note that day and
so
try to meet him.
Both have noted.
It will be
and Sudhakar is saying that one of our meditator has become a monk in that place.
I see. Good.
After finishing his PhD in finance.
PhD in finance.
What a contrast.
Good. So let us come up to our Patthana discussion for some time. So you will recall the conditions: Hetu Pachayo, Arambana Pachayo, Adipati Pachayo, Anantara Pachayo, Samanantara Pachayo, Sahajata Pachayo, Anyamanya Pachayo, Nissaya Pachayo, Upanissaya Pachayo, Purejata Pachayo, Pachajata Pachayo, Asevana Pachayo. I think these we have done, isn't it? Asevana Pachayo. Then we come to Kamma Pachayo. So the condition of Kamma, let us read that. So you have done almost the half of them. Which is the, let me see which is the slide number.
Maybe 72.
72. Yeah, 72. Kamma Pachaya. Kusala akusalam kammam, vipakanam khandanam, katattar charupanam, kamma pachayena pachayo. Chetana sampayutta kanam dhammanam, tam samutthananam charupanam, kamma pachayena pachayo. These are the first two verses. The third one is in the next slide. Okay, I think that is explaining, so let me go one by one. So what does it mean? Kushala akushala kamma. So wholesome and unwholesome kamma. Vipakanam khandanam, and the resultant aggregates, vipak jo hai unka, katatta cha rupanam, and the rupas which are generated by them, kamma pachena pachayo. They are related to that by the force of kamma condition. So kamma condition is that wholesome and unwholesome karma serve as a condition for the resulting aggregates and karma generated matter. Then there is Chetana Sampayutta Kanam Dhammanam, Tam Samutthananam Charupanam, Kamma Pachayena Pachayo. Chetana means the volition, and Sampayutta Kanam Dhammanam, and the associated mental states. Tam Samutthananam Charupanam, and the mind generated matter. Kamma Pachayena Pachayo. They are related to them by force of Kamma condition. So this is what is meant. And these are then divided into two kinds of Kamma, as you can see from these two. First is what's called Sahajata Kamma Pachayo. That is, they are arising along with this conditioning state. So for the second ones, that is the Chetana conditioned states, Chitta and Chetsika, associated with these volitions. So one of the kamma is the volition. If you recall, we had studied that volition is one of the universal mental factors, and along with it will arise many other mental factors. So, and Chetana being the leader, it coordinates all of that. So, Chetana is the one which conditions the states of Chittas and Chetsikas associated with those volitions. So, depending on what is the kind of volition, accordingly there will be the other mental factors which will arise. If it is wholesome mental factors will arise. If it is unwholesome mental factors will arise. Now, they arise at the same time. Sahajata Pachya. So, if you see the notes, I have written them. The Sahajata Kamma is the current volition that serves as a condition for the concomitant Chittas and mental states. So, this is directly in accordance with what we studied in the Abhidhamma earlier. So, because the Chetana is the volition which directs what should actually happen. And they are going to happen simultaneously with it. While the other kind of Kamma Pachya is what's called Nana Khanika. Nana Khanika means Nana means different, Khanika means time. So things which happen at different times. So it's also called asynchronous Kamma condition. It means the past volitions produce their effect much later. So the volitions which lie dormant until the right condition is met to produce the result. So there is therefore a temporal gap between the conditioned and conditioning states. Sahajata means they arise together, but here there is a gap. So the conditioning state could be a past Kushala or Akushala Kamma, and conditioned state will be the resultant Chitta and the Chetsikas and material phenomena which arise much later. They can arise at Patisandhi and also at the course of existence. Meaning at the time of death, when the next mental consciousness goes, then it can arise. Or it can arise at the course of our existence. So that's what is meant by when we say fruition of karma, karma phal jo baat kahi jati. This is what is the usual karma phala condition, which is a asynchronous condition. Now, of course, there is a big if in it. How does this asynchronous condition work? It doesn't really sound. And you remember I had mentioned, I had written it to Ajahn. Bhikkhu Bodhi, and then one female nun from Burmese tradition who lives in Netherlands, and this is it's the best answer to this is, I think, found in the Dialogues of Milinda. Venerable Nagsena, I have quoted it here. That Kamma is not stored somewhere in this consciousness, because वो लगता है ना Kamma है कहाँ, store कहाँ पे हुआ है. And in fact, this storing business has led to another kind of Abhidhamma where they talk of stored consciousness also. But in the Theravada Abhidhamma, the explanation given is like this, that it is not stored anywhere, it is dependent on mind and matter, it rests and then manifests at the opportune time. So how does it manifest at the opportune time? So he gives the analogy that mangoes are not stored in the mango tree or in the seed of the mango, but at the appropriate time the tree fructifies and mangoes are generated. So that is the example which is given of fruition of Kamma. It is a latent tendency which remains in the consciousness stream, but it is not. It's not as if it is stored somewhere. So it is carried on with the stream of consciousness.
And what is the role of seed in that?
The volition is the seed. Chetana is the Kamma. So the Chetana with which I do action will form this seed that will then fructify at appropriate time. So it's that reason it is said that even Arhant can have a Vipaka Kamma. You recall Mahamoggallana's Vipaka Kamma coming, even though he was fully enlightened and chief disciple, even then an asynchronous Kamma came over some past lives which was lying dormant, and that came over and resulted in his violent death.
नहीं, पर इसमें आता है जब अरहंत बन जाते हैं
जी.
तब आता है कोई
Yeah.
कृपा।
This is what happened with Mahamoggallana. Still,
उसका
that
रिजल्ट
karma
क्या हुआ फिर?
that he died. He was killed by the robbers.
अच्छा
Robbers or whosoever. There are different stories who killed him,
अच्छा
but he had that psychic power to get alive again. They cut his body into pieces, और उनकी इतनी पावर थी कि उन्होंने शरीर को फिर जोड़ लिया, फिर जिंदा हो गए।
अच्छा
फिर वो तीसरी बार उनको काट के उसको जला भी दिया था, भस्मी बना दी। Then he got a chance to, I think, reflect and saw that it was a fructification of his past karma, and therefore he should not resist it. So he went to the Buddha, projected himself before the Buddha, sought his blessings, and passed away. So the karmas, that's why they are classified in various categories, weighty karma or habitual karma, or death threshold karma, or a reserve or effective karma. So
मतलब फिर शरीर रहता नहीं है, लेकिन उनका जो चेतना है उसके आधार पर उन्होंने वो किया,
जो उनके चित्त के अंदर जो एक दुष्कर्म कभी किया था, जो बहुत, which is a weighty karma, killing your father and mother is a weighty karma which will produce its effect irrespective of what you do.
वो मर गए मतलब, फिर उसके बाद जो उनका चेतना थी
नहीं, वो तो अरहंत हो गए थे। Then he was liberated, freed from the cycle of birth.
शरीर वो जब काट दिया उसके बाद
एक दो बार उन्होंने उसको अपनी साइकिक पावर से दोबारा उसको जीवित कर लिया था, but then he realized that it is a fructification of that karma, and he didn't want that these people who are killing him, they should get into such a serious problem of having killed an arahant. Because killing an arahant is a terrible thing. See the compassion of the person. They will get into trouble because of killing an arahant. So he just used his psychic powers to become alive again. And to Buddha and gave up his body. So such karmas are very weighty karmas. The habitual karmas are which we do as a routine matter. Death threshold karma means the one which we remember at the time of the death. Some karma which comes at the time and which has a strong influence on the next life. And the effective karmas are those which are reserved, and they would not. If there is no other karma which is available at the time of death, then they will produce an impact and give next birth. So it's not necessary that we always say that the death threshold karma may arise. One may get into it as kind of coma or some such thing where the consciousness is very much deeply impaired. Then the reserve karma, whatever he has done in the lifetime, will take its precedence and give rise to the next birth. So that is the karma pachya. Then we have next one, vipaka pachya. Vipaka means the effect, karma vipaka. So they are quite related to each other. But vipaka pachya has a very limited jurisdiction. So let me read out. Chattaro khanda arupino anyamanyam vipaka pachayena pachaya. So it says the chattaro khanda is the four khandas arupino, which is other than the rupa. So the four resultant mental aggregates, anyamanyam vipaka pachaya. Anyamanyam, you remember, was the reciprocity condition. They are related to each other by that also. Vipaka also and reciprocity condition also. So what is point to point out is that the four nama khandas, the Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara and Vijnana, they serve as a vipaka pachya to each other, and also to the associated rupas and the chittas which arise along with them. So they are all also they are the result of vipaka, kamma vipaka. What Vedana we get is the result of kamma vipaka, and that is the reciprocity with the Sanya and Sankhara and Vijnana. So
the one can affect other.
Yeah, they are mutually reciprocal. One will arise, the other will also arise together with them. You remember the Annamanya Pachayo we had said, they are simultaneously arising and influencing each other in a way. So you can, I think, read the notes which I have written here. These Vipaka Chittas are passive, so they are being the fruits of the karma, and they are quiescent, and they make the conditioned state also passive and quiescent. Thus, in the mind of a person in deep sleep, the resultant Bhavanga Chitta arises and passes away, and there is not even the distinct awareness of any object. Similarly, in the five-door cognitive process, the resultant Chittas do not make any effort to know their object. It is only in the Javana phase that the effort is made to clearly cognize the object. You remember those 17 mind movements and all that. And thereafter actions are performed. Vipak Chitta and its accompanying Chetsika also condition one another by way of connaissance condition and by way of mutuality condition. So now we can see as we are progressing that a particular conditioning Dhamma can influence the conditioned Dhamma in a variety of ways. Here it is Vipaka Pachayo, also Annamanya Pachayo, also Sahajata Pachayo. So they are all happening simultaneously. So there are always more than one cause and more than one effect. That kind of a fact is brought out by the Patthana also. Then we come to the next one, Ahara Pachaya. Ahara is normally, in Hindi also we know, food or nutriment. So Kabali Karo Aharo Imasya Kayasya Ahara Pachena Pache. Arupino Ahara Sampayutta Kanam Dhammanam Tam Samuttananam Charupanam Ahara Pachena Pache. And in the next slide also there is the third part of it. Arupino Ahara Sampayutta Kanam Dhammanam Tam Samuttananam Charupanam Ahara Pachena Pache. So let's see them one by one. So Kabali Karo means the in this form of a sphere, ball. So it is like a morsel. I think in that time, I think even now people when they take rice, they make it into a small ball and then eat it. So Kabali Karo Aharo means that kind of physical food. Basically it means physical food. Imasya Kayasya of this body, Ahara Pachena Pachayo. So this physical food acts as a nutriment for this body, which is quite obvious. It conditions the rupas of the body by Ahara Pachaya. Arupino Ahara Sampayutta Kanang Dhammanam Tam Samuttananam Charupana Ahara Pachena Pachayo. Then there are Arupino Ahara, means aharas which we take, which nutriment which we get, which is not physical, which is not material. What are those Arupana Aharas? You remember we had mentioned it once earlier. Phassa, Chetana and Vijnana. Phassa means the contact of the senses with the world around, that acts as a nutriment. Then the volition acts as a nutriment because it changes the rupas, and the vijnana which arises. So there the meaning is that mental condition is nutrition is a condition for their associated mental factors, and the matter produced thereby by the force of nutrition condition. So what we see is that in the case of Ahara Pachayo, Ahara is a conditioning Dhamma, and it supports the growth and development of the conditioned Dhamma, which is a universal common statement here. And the last of them is Arupino Ahara. How do the Arupino Ahara they? Sampayutta Kanam Dhammanam Tam Samuttananam Charupanam Ahara Pachena Pachayo. So let's look at that statement again, which is there, second statement. That is, mental nutrition is conditioned for the associated mental factors. So I have written it in detail here. It's this detailed exposition of the second. Here the conditioning factors are the Phassa, Chetana and consciousness, as I mentioned. And what are the conditioning factors? All the possible consciousness and all the possible mental factors. 89 consciousness and 52 mental factors. So they are all influenced by the Ahara. And conditioning mode is that this is what is meant by Ahara Pachayo. So the physical nutriment is influencing the physical body, and mental nutriment is influencing not only the mental states but also the physical body. There also tam samuttananancha rupanam, the rupas which arise along with those mental states. So we can see intuitively how these three phassa, chetana and vijnana are also a type of nutriment, a type of food which we get from the surroundings, isn't it? Because when we interact with the world through senses, there is a contact with the world, and that sense contacts influences our mental structure and also influences our bodily structure. We know that. You see something which is attractive, body is something. If you see something which is fearful, something else will happen in the body. So therefore phassa is also seen as a nutriment. Then chetana, of course, is the coordinator, is the leader of the mental factors, and the way chetana emerges, that will influence all our body and mind states. And vijnana, of course, being the chitta, being the king of the whole mind states. Without vijnana, chitta or chetsikas cannot arise. So therefore chitta is supporting and maintaining these accompanying chetsikas.
Silesh has this question, sir. Doesn't food also influence mind?
The food will influence mind through the secondary impacts. The food which we eat will cause an effect on the body, and our response to that body effects will influence our mind. So here it is, I think the point is being made is immediate contact, the next immediate influence.
And of course, by seeing the food, there will be a contact.
There will be a contact.
That will be
Yes.
part of this mind.
Yeah, very right. When you see the food, when you touch it, because it's going to touch at various sense doors.
Yeah.
So there the mental factors will come. We see the food and we don't like it, or we taste it and we don't like it. So those things will influence our body because of the associated rupas which arise. Okay. Then we come to the Indriya Pachaya. Indriya is the word used for leader. Indra, the leader actually. It means strength, or you can also say the leader or the controlling principle, because we say 5 Indriya in other tradition, or 6 faculties we call them, because they control our life completely. So in that sense they are called Indriyas. So the relationship of Indriyas is being explained in this Pachaya. Chakhu Indriyam Chakhu Vijnana Dhatuya Tan Sampayutta Kanancha Dhammanam Indriya Pachayana Pachayo. Similarly for all other Indriyas, Sota Indriya, Ghan Indriya and so on. Then Rupa Jivita Indriyanam Katattacha Rupanam Indriya Pachayana Pachayo. These are the two aspects of it. One is that Chakhu Indriyanam, so the eye faculty, Chakhu Vijnana Dhatuya is a condition for the Chakhu Vijnana Dhatu, it is eye consciousness element. And Tam Sampathanam Cha Rupam Dhammanam, and the associated Dhammas which arise together with, they are related by the Indriya Pachaya, Indriya condition. Similarly for ear, nose, tongue, body and so on. Then Rupa Jivita Indriyanam. This Rupa Jivita, you remember Jivit Indriya? Jivit Indriya is the life faculty which supports the life. And Rupa Jivit Indriya means the one which supports the physical body. Rupa Jivit Indriyanam Katattacha Rupanam, and the Kamma born by that Indriya Pachayana Pachayo. So physical life faculty is a condition for Kamma born matter by that Pachaya of Indriya. So we can see in the notes I have put down the conditioning Dhamma. Pachaya Dhamma is the Chakhu Rupa, and conditioned Dhamma is the Chakhu Vijnana. Similarly for all other sense doors, for all other sense spaces. So when you say the Katatta Rupa, it means the Rupa which arises as a result of Kamma done in the past. So these are regarding the Indriyas, there is a lot of discussion found in the suttas as well as in the Abhidhamma and the commentary literature. The Indriyas are basically, as I have put down in the notes, called to be of three broad classifications. One is Pure Jata Indriya. In the notes, if you open the notes, then they can see that. Pure Jata Indriya, then Rupa Jivit Indriya and Sahajata Indriya. So Pure Jat means that which has arisen earlier. Now because of the difference between the time duration of Rupa element and mental element, if you remember, Rupa element is 17 mind moments. Because of that, the previously arisen Rupa can be influenced by subsequently arisen mental states also. So what is happening every moment, we say the body, the Rupa elements are arising and passing away. So if they are passed away, how do they arise again? By Rupa Jivit Indriya. It is that Rupa Jivit Indriya which creates a constant replacement, and we are able to live for a reasonable length of time and not just one mind moment or one Rupa moment. And it is the momentum of that comes from the kamic energy. So at the time of our Pratisandhi, when you are born, there is a certain kamic energy which gives momentum to the Jivit Indriya, and depending on that will be our lifespan. So it is our kamic energy that generates such a constant process of generic materials, signifying what we are. These genetic physical elements are preserved or sustained by the physical life faculty or Rupa Jivit Indriya. Then we come to the third one. Arupino Indriya Sampayutta Kanam Dhammana Tam Samutthananan Cha Rupana Indriya Pachena Pachaya. So what is it? Here we are talking of Arupino, means non-physical. Because there are non-physical non-material faculties. Sampayutta Kanam Cha Dhammana, and the associated dhammas, associated mental factors. Tam Samutthananan Cha Rupana, and the rupas which arise together with, they are related by Indriya Pachya. So the translation I have written down here. Mental faculties are a condition for the mental factors which are associated with them, and the matter which is produced thereby by the force of faculty condition. So in our suttas you generally find 5 Indriyas mentioned, Saddha, Virya, Panya and Sati. In the commentatorial literature and in Abhidhamma, they talk of 20 Indriyas. They include other things also in the Indriyas, which I have put down in the notes on this slide, if you kindly look at it. So the 5 Indriyas which are mentioned in the suttas are Sati Indriya, Saddha Indriya, Virya, Samadhi and Panya. But in the Abhidhammic literature, we have others also. Somanassa Indriya or Somanassa Vedana Chetsika, Domanassa Indriya or Domanassa Vedana Chetsika, Sukhindriya or Sukha Vedana Chetsika, Dukhindriya or Dukha Vedana Chetsika, Upekha Indriya or Upekha Vedana Chetsika. Now why are these being said? Because the Vedana, that is the mental feelings, and the physical feelings arising from bodily feelings, they all also have a very strong influence on us. So that's why in this literature they are also termed as Indriyas. So if we have a painful feeling, we know how much strong influence it has on our mind and the whole of our life behavior. So that's why in this literature these are also termed as Indriyas. So these Indriyas serve as faculty condition for their consciousness born or Chittaja Rupa. Okay. So that's quite a bit of a surprise, because normally we in suttas don't read of Vedana being an Indriya. We talk only of those 5 proper Indriyas. So these are those small additions which have been done in the literature later. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. I will take up the Jhana Pachya and others later. Because taking up too many at a time creates difficulty in assimilating. So what we studied today, let me just recall quickly. Kamma Pachya. Kamma Pachya we studied, then we studied Vipaka Pachya, and then we studied Ahara Pachya. And finally Indriya Pachya. So these are the 4 things which we studied today. Now as we progress towards the conclusion, you can see how the multiple relationships arise. You can have Indriyas which are arising simultaneously because Vedana will arise simultaneously with the Chitta. So you have Sahajat Indriya, you have Purajat Indriya. So all these complications begin to emerge as we study the mind processes in greater detail. If there are any questions from friends, we can take. Otherwise, say goodbye.
Sir, Sudhakar wants to know about your experience of Arunachala.
Good. I think first 3 days I was a bit uncomfortable with the rituals and pujas and chantings going on. I continued to meditate in my own way, the way we meditate. And I was reflecting on this issue of the Sotapatti Marga as given by, there's a book published by Abhayagiri Monastery on the island, if you know, which details about the Nibbana and the Sotapatti steam entry. And I realized that when you read Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, what is it actually the Buddha asking us to do? To inquire into what is the nature of self. That when we take body as self, mind as self, Vedana as self, and all the 5 skandhas as self, they are not self because of these reasons. So to me it seemed that the inquiry into the nature of self is what Ramana Maharshi must also have been doing. There's no way to find out what he was doing. He would only say, inquire, sit and inquire. Let the mind quieten down and sit and inquire. So that's what it seemed to me. But apparently some of my friends didn't like that. They felt that it was being I was advocating that you should go to Advaita and this and that. It was not at all the intention. Intention was to point out that things are not, that all other traditions are not diluted as we generally tend to believe. There's a problem with Vipassana meditators. They become dogmatic.
Everything black and white.
Yeah, they become dogmatic about things. They're not able to pick up the right things from everywhere, but you want to label things and just put them aside. And that has been, since we have been exposed to teachings of Ajahn Sumedho and all, we can see that it's not a black and white kind of thing. The exposition which Ajahn Sumedho gives of Anityasana Vijnana and consciousness being always present and one, is very much in tune with that. So, the feeling at the end of that period was that it's not that Advaita people are all deluded as we generally used to believe. One can be deluded as a Vipassana meditator also.
Exactly, I was going to say that. It is the same with the Vipassana meditators as well, that we can
We have a huge number of Vipassana meditators who get deluded by their experiences.
Exactly.
So that, that rigidity and dogmatism, it virtually borders on fanaticism. There's nobody else can be enlightened other than one who follows the path. Partly it arises because of poor translation also, I always wonder. Because the word Ekai no Maggo has been translated by VRI as the only path.
The only path.
This is wrong translation. Ekai no Maggo means, Ekai no means the direct path. It is, you have to see any Pali dictionary, you have to see any other translation. Nowhere in the world, any other scholar or monk or any person has translated Ekaino as the only. They all translated as the direct.
Direct path.
The Buddha himself gave so many paths.
Different people
Would tell them different things.
Yes.
But somehow we want to conflate everything and say, no, it's all this. All this is just the same one particular thing.
Right.
Even if you study Sayagyu Bakin, I don't know if you studied Sayagyu Bakin journal. There is an essay of him that Vipassana can be practiced in variety of ways.
Yes.
You can practice Vipassana on each of the sense doors.
Yes.
And this method of bodily observation is just one of
That's
them.
one of them, exactly.
So how can you then say that those who practice others are deluded?
Right.
That's a sad thing. That's a kind of delusion which arises because of attachment to the raft. As Buddha said it, the raft is for deliverance, not for grasping and holding on to.
Right.
So we hold on to a raft and use that raft to
But
beat
I think
others.
it's a part problem of that. Of course, we've got this good
Yeah.
teaching and this so powerful
Definitely.
teaching, but we ourselves are not able to really practice it so well. So intellectually, we think that okay, holding on to this raft is at least something that we are doing, and I stick to that. I think
Yeah.
it's because of
That
that as well.
also is the reason.
Because the more you practice, the more you open up, and the more you see how other things also fit in.
The key issue which in our group we have been discussing for now how many 5 years is this issue of anatta, not trying to give due importance to that. And therefore all our practice becomes based on atta. I am the one who is doing the practice and I have to work hard. In the beginning it's very important.
Right.
But if we continue to do that,
Right.
we will be trapped. We can never enter the stream. Because entering the stream means giving up the notion of I.
Right.
So this is what has been pointed out by the Thai tradition, very powerful, the Thai forest tradition of Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Sumedho and others. So that has been a great blessing to all of us.
Great.
So Silesh has this question that Dr. Fleischmann says we should not meditate with meditators from other traditions as the subtle energy is different. Any thoughts?
Maybe. I don't have any opinions on that. It may be. But there was nobody meditating this. They were all doing other things and I was sitting in a corner and meditating. There may be, of course, there must be some difference. But I don't believe that, because when you see the teachings of Ramana Maharshi, his entirely teaching is, I am not the body, not the mind, not the intellect. That is the key teaching. So I don't see how it is different. Now whether they meditate in this way or that way, whether they are sitting properly or not, whether they are observing breath or not, whether they are observing body sensations or not, to me that is of much lesser consequence. The key teaching is, I am not the body, not the mind, not the intellect, which is exactly what the Buddha is saying. So there's no distinction there really. So if you go to a place where the key teaching is about the notion of a supreme creator who is creating you and doing all the things, or that you have to pay, devotion means that you have to depend entirely on somebody to liberate you, then obviously there will be confusion. But one has to have that clarity in it. One has to have clarity on what the teaching is. The reason I went was out of respect for this. Long back, 40 years ago we had studied Vedanta in great detail and not understood it and dismissed it entirely as a speculative mental exercise. And now I could see it's not a mental exercise, it's not an intellectual exercise. It's an exercise in discovery. It's an exercise in deep introspection. Because I always wondered, how can a person, if you read the life of Ramana Maharshi, you wonder how can such a person be, we can term him as a deluded person, that he doesn't know what he's doing. It's amazing.
There's the tendency.
You have to read his life, go and see, visit places, meet people who have been directly influenced by him, read their lives.
But is there a tendency of people labeling him as deluded?
I mean, our tradition entirely always talks of that. Huh? In the mail which Sudhakar is referring to, effectively it was said that they are lost in a Michha Samadhi.
Okay.
I mean, this word was used. It's quite sad. Michha Samadhi means that you are doing wrong things.
Doing wrong things.
You are not in Samma Samadhi.
Yeah. Basically, in the normal sense, the Sanatana Dharma, those people used to call him as not doing proper meditation or Michha Samadhi.
Who?
But the normal priest or.
No, they couldn't understand what he's doing.
Okay.
The story is that when he, at the age of 16, he became enlightened according to his experience. And he just left home and went to the Tiruvannamalai because of the tradition there that Arunachala is a very holy place and auspicious place. And he used to sit in the temple there because he didn't go to the hill first and just be deeply absorbed. And the children would throw stones at him and I don't know, do whatever they liked, and he just didn't respond. He was deeply absorbed in his own meditation. And it took quite some time for people to realize, some saints to come and realize that he's a person of a different kind. He's not a mad person or something of that kind. But the painful thing is to see meditators also mentioning that. It's sad.
So, sir, relevant to present discussion, Sudhakar has pointed a link to a podcast and wants us to play for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So, I'll just play it right now.
Good.
Or if you more or temperament of Jnani, of that, they will look. Say, but everything that is seen requires the seer. Everything that is perceived requires the perceiving of it. Who is the I? Can I itself, can the I itself who says I perceive, can it be perceived? And you have to think right there and don't ask another question. This type of inquiry, you don't have 2, 3, 4 questions now. All your questions boil down to one question. Everything that is perceived from any time frame, any person, it must be some phenomena, some quality. And the perceiver of this quality is where? Where is the location of that? And who are you in that in relation to that location? Are you different or similar? Are you also one of the objects seen, or are you the seer of all things? And if you have the feeling, I'm the seer of all things, then your position is already qualified. Now you ask the question, can this seer also be seen? Find out. I don't think you need another question after this question. I said before, this is a final question. You cannot exchange it for another question. You exchange it for another question, it means you turn back, you're going somewhere else, you're going off course. Everything will bring you to this point. Even if somebody say, I don't trust you, I don't believe anything you say. I say, yeah, answer my question. You don't have to trust me or believe me. I have asked this question, follow this question. I dare you. If you are true, I'm not seeking relationship with you. I give you a question. I feel this question is probably the highest question in the universe for the one who wants to see. because I brought this question now, then some will hate me for this question and some will love me for this question. But greatest is the one who will take this question. Some will hate you because you have now brought everything, so okay, fine, where is your excuse? No. And that part of their mind, the devil part of the mind, which wants to keep you tied onto this body and into this earth only, and it will not let you go, is the biggest mafia in the existence. He doesn't let go of anybody. You have to break free. No use saying to the mind, please, please let me go, I'll be very good. No, he's not going to let you go. You have to break free. One who breaks free is called a Buddha or Christ or something like this. Sometimes the beings they don't want to hear, they don't want to hear. It's not even the beings that don't want to hear. It's their relationship, their false with pseudo relationship formed with the ego don't want to know this question. It's too powerful a question. They will tell you, give me 15 steps to freedom. I said, I don't want to give you any step. You step aside. Let one who really want to know, let this one come. So it depends if you are someone who just listen to your mind, and all of us for a while we're going to listen to our minds. It is just like that. But for freedom, you have to somehow come to see that the mind came after you, not original.
Okay, so let me stop here. I'll share the full link.
What is this? I think is it Muji probably?
मुझी का तो है
उन्हीं की है ना आवाज?
हाँ उन्हीं मुझी जी है
It's written.
मुझी जी
So what was Sudhakar's point in asking us to lay this?
आप लोग बैठे
हाँ.
मुझी जी है
What was this Sudhakar's comment?
Yeah. Yeah, he's saying Muji. You're just pointing to the reference that from Ramana Maharishi, Punyaji, and from Punyaji to Muji. And I think the relevant part was this, again, that question about self-inquiry, which we were discussing. And I think that's a reference which Sudhakar made. And of course, he's typing. So, Sudhakar, is that right? He's saying yes.
See, if you read Anattalukkana Sutta, what does Buddha tell them? Let me see if you can open it. इसमें मिलेगा. Access to website में मिलेगा ना? Access to insight में.
आपका सीवीडी पड़ा हुआ सर. आप
हमारा है स्लाइड है आपके पास?
आपने वो